Welcome back to the DNA Pest Control Podcast. Aaron,
Daniel.
hey. So we get to be virtual. We're not in the studio. Uh, and we get to be with another guest. It's National Pest Management Month. These are always super fun. These are always my favorite episodes. The stuff we get to learn, just the whole different perspective from different people in different areas. Cool thing is, we're not in a different area today. We get
No,
to
we're not.
stay right in our hometown here in California, here in Sacramento. Um, and this is going to be a ton of fun because we get to talk shop here at home, right?
I agree.
And who's that pest guest today?
So today we have Raul Ortiz. He is a route technician for Clark Pest Control. He's been in the industry for 3 years, and like you said, based out of Sacramento. So we're going to bring him in. Raul, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Hey, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday to come on the DNA Pest Control podcast. We appreciate that.
No, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So right off the bat, something we ask all of our guests. So 3 years ago, how did you get in the industry?
Yeah, 3 years ago, I had stopped working for about 2 weeks. I was 2 weeks out from my 21st birthday, and my dad said, "You're getting a job." So he called one of his friends who had been in the industry for about 5 years and had me meet him. And the guy said, "Do good on your interview, and we'll get you a job." And it just went up from there.
So did your dad do pest control?
No, so my dad does pool construction.
Okay.
And this guy worked with him, I think, for a summer, and said, "Oh, this is not for me." So he went into pest control, and they had lost touch. But my dad said, "You know what? I know that's a good job. He's doing good over there. Let me see if I can give my son a good opportunity."
Nice. Okay. So you jumped on, they got you on, you started running a route. What do you do over
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, so I do the regular residential route. I pretty much stick to Fair Oaks.
Mm-hmm.
Something I wasn't aware of before was route density.
Mm-hmm.
As in, from what I have learned, Clark doesn't have too big, too wide of an area to cover for each technician.
Mm.
Versus when I've talked here and there to a lot of other guys, they're going really far.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, route density is I think everybody's goal.
Hmm.
It's a lot better that way. So you're doing residential. Have you done anything else, or are you just strictly, treating homes and that's it?
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything. If somebody ever needs help, we'll hop out. So I've done a few restaurants
Mhm.
around town, community centers,
Awesome.
some colleges.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, no, that's great. So something I'm always interested in, and I've never had the opportunity to ask, and this is a great thing to ask, is Clark was actually recently purchased. And how was that transition for you as a technician there?
Yeah, I got here late 2021.
Uh-huh.
It was not as crazy with COVID and everything. So I think me jumping into it, they had already, made that acquisition,
Oh,
and I didn't know anything before it.
oh, okay.
So I had nothing to compare it to.
Gotcha. Okay. So I got you right after they did the switch over.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Well, never mind. I could ask the next one.
No, that's cool.
I am aware of a few of the different things that have changed, with the corporate structure. There's a lot more. Um, there's a lot of really good benefits that come with it, but as well as just the support on the back end
Uh-huh.
versus where we used to do our paper routes to, pick out our guests for the week. We have the route optimizations and everything.
Okay. No, that's awesome. How do you like running a route and doing pest control so far?
Yeah, I really liked it. It's, you get to see the same people, you know, monthly or every 2 months, and you get to, become, like friends, and a lot of them, um, I'll give them my personal work number and be like, hey, so you don't have to call into the office, give me a call. We're always happy to help. So I am happy, with Clark. What they've always tried to stand for was more of the family values, low,
Mhm.
keep it between the technician and the customer.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. That's awesome. So you're 3 years in, because I'm relatively new to the industry as well. I'm coming up on 2 years myself, and I've seen so many changes, and my goals now from when I first started have changed. So for you, Raul, like where you sit, where do you see yourself? In like the next year or so, maybe the next 5 years. What are your goals with the industry?
Yeah, you know, ever since realizing there was the whole pest control industry
Hmm.
outside of just corporate, uh, I have thought about, maybe going my own way, my own route in it,
Mhm.
establishing my own business. Uh, what I have decided is, as from 2016 to 2021, right before Clark, I did lawn care. So local residential homes was really what my whole life was.
Hmm.
I took a break from that to come to Clark these last 3 years, and with the spring rush, the last 2 3 months I've been juggling both jobs. So clock in early at Clark, get out early, go do landscaping, and I think I might take a break from Clark for a little while. And I've talked to everybody. They've all said, well, you've been an excellent tech. If this summer doesn't go good, you have a spot here on the team. Uh,
Hmm.
but then I've talked to enough people that have left to start their own business, in this industry, and they all encourage me to, and they said, you're bright, you look at things a little bit different, so you might have better luck than a lot of other people.
Sure,
And then
sure.
now with, the podcast, with, listening to your guys' stuff, it's, as long as you're determined and you want to learn and grow, you know, there's room to be successful for everyone.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think, starting something is, it can be very rewarding, it can be very difficult, so that's it's something that people don't get to see all the time. I think there's people get to see always the good. They never get to see the bad. And so when you step into that realm, understand there is going to be difficult times and it's going to be hard. That's something no one ever wants to talk about. I always try to, put the light on that, in the podcast because so many people, social media, they blow this idea of owning your own business and the freedom and this and that. And it can be there, but it also depends on how much you're willing to put in today.
Mhm.
The bill is due today. The freedom doesn't come today. That's not here. That comes in the future. And Aaron, I see you laughing over there. What's your comment on that?
It's interesting because I came into something that was already established, you know, and a lot of the pest guests that we do have, they're brutally honest, which I appreciate. They say I worked for this company for a few years and I started trying to do my own thing, and whether they say it worked out or I got my ass kicked, it's kind of the same thing that Daniel just said. It's like people don't realize like how much actually goes into it. And even from my perspective, coming to something that has been established for a few years, it feels like we're just starting from scratch with how much effort and determination and, I don't know, just resiliency that it takes, and obviously you have to enjoy what you do. And, for you, Raul, Daniel and I really do enjoy the business side of it. We treat it like a game, and how can we make it work, and how can we make it fun, and keeping a fresh perspective. But no, I'm kind of curious I'm interested to know. So when you were talking to, some of the people you work with, they were encouraging that, they said, go for it, you should do it, or, were they kind of weird about you kind of transitioning to do your own thing? How did that look like?
Yeah. Oh, you always hear stories from different branches and
Okay.
how their whole way is. I'm lucky with my branch. It's always been family oriented. I've had people, switch branches and tell me, yeah, where I came from, all we care about was sales, dirty trucks, didn't matter, just do your sales. Here in Sacramento, it's always have your truck clean, look presentable, overall just be happy. That's all they care about. You want to go do something, you want to go try out somewhere else, go ahead. They encourage you to pursue what makes you happy.
That's cool.
Wow, that's good. And that's refreshing, because not a lot of places do that. Not a lot of people push in that direction. I think that's what me and Aaron always try to do. It's, don't stay here if you're not happy. We don't want you here if you're not happy, because then eventually we're not going to be happy with you. And we don't want that. We don't want to see that. We don't want to come down on somebody. So yeah, we definitely, it is nice to hear that when, other branches, other companies, other owners, other managers are that way, because, it's always frustrating to hear that, and frustrating to see the guy who's suffering to get through a day, suffering to get through a week. And it's like, we don't want that. We want you to be happy. We want you to go out there, and that's awesome. You get to do that, and they have that support behind you, and they're kind of pushing you in that direction, is do what you want to do. So, and Raul, is there any questions you want to ask us?
What I had brought up to, one of my supervisors the other day after you guys' podcast about the, the bait boxes and everything that came into effect with all that.
Mm-hmm.
I brought it up to him. I was like, hey, I've been listening to this podcast, and they said nobody really knew about this. I was like, they said they only found out because of that one letter from that one place.
Mm-hmm.
And even he was surprised. He's like, they're not giving everybody all this information.
Mm-hmm.
I think my question is kind of, what do you think the disconnect is from there? Because, of course, I see all these other companies, and you still want them to be successful, because, they're hustling the way we're hustling.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, if everybody else is getting the right information, you can feel pretty secure you're going to get the right information.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of, where do you think that change needs to come, or where,
Me personally, I don't think that the ag department cares. I think they're checking boxes. I did talk about it. There was an episode that we did, and it was shedding a lot, a little bit of light on them. Is they don't really have a boss. They don't really have somebody above them. They don't really have anybody looking at them. So there's no pressure. The news isn't looking at them, so nothing's coming from that. If you're going to the ag commissioner, above him is the mayor, and the last thing he cares about is, what are we doing with pesticides, right? I mean, it all just comes back to, no one is responsible enough, or no one has the pressure from an outside source, or from a boss that has the pressure to come back down on them. And so I think some of them are understanding, hey, I've talked to a lot of different ag people. And there's actually one guy in Sacramento, I won't mention his name, but he's there, and he's right below the ag commissioner in Sacramento. So he'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But he's awesome. He's been a phenomenal point of contact, and he has actually put pressure on the ag commissioner. But it's not he doesn't have any choice. He does what he's told, and that's about where that line is drawn. He doesn't get much more than that. So I just think it's the lack of structure, lack of power, lack of, focus on the ag department. Even the structural pest control board, uh, the guy who's over licensing, he's the boss. I've called him, I've talked to him, and he's just like, job security. I'm the only one who knows it. No one else does. Who cares? I can do what I want. And that's really what it is. There's just no pressure put back on them. There's no consequences for them doing something bad. There's no consequence, or even reward for doing something good. It doesn't matter. So they're just kind of skimming by, getting paid monthly, doing their thing, the bare minimum. It doesn't matter if there's a stack of applications on their desk, to send out licenses. They do it when they want, how they want. There's just a lack of structure over there. And I think that's my personal opinion, because no one sends anything. No one keeps any businesses in the loop, but then they get mad at us if we do something wrong. But it's like, well, how do we know?
Mhm.
You're not sending out emails. You're not sending out letters. You're changing the law with nobody knowing it. What do you expect? Of course, we're going to do something illegal. We don't know.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on it. I don't know what you think, Aaron.
Yeah, I'll go more on the what do we do from this point moving on, because I think you're absolutely right, Daniel, with there is no checks and balances on that side to make sure that everyone is being notified. But on the industry side of it, we're doing exactly what we need to do, like this on the podcast. It's like being able to share information, whether it's like with your local PCOC or your local community or, whatever. I mean, I know there's like Facebook groups. I know there's certain groups and things that you can collaborate with other businesses, other pest control operators to just be in the know. And something we talk about a ton on the podcast. It's like, sharing information makes us all better. And it's really refreshing that people come on and they're willing to be open and share, because it's not like we're keeping secrets from each other. So to try to get ahead, it's like, hey, if we all are on the same page and we all understand how to do it properly, we're not going to have that one guy that ruins it for everybody. You know what I mean? But that's my take on it.
Yeah, hopefully that answered your question, Raul.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what I've been thinking about is, I've been at Clark, and it's just field route, every day. So you don't know what else is out there. I don't have to deal with anything that's not my customers, which, as an employee at Clark, makes sense. It's really good, making sure that the quality is consistent, because it's just me and them. But then there's other people like me who do have other goals and other stuff that we want to reach for within the industry, and we don't know what's possible because we don't know what's out there. So even thinking about, what if I were to do my own thing? It's like, okay, go get your business, license, get your operators and everything. But then what now? So then you go onto Google and you look it up, and you'll get, maybe a list of 4 things, but you're like, I know I won't be successful, or I know I'm missing some rules that are not just on the first 3 pages of Google that, can get me in trouble if I go for it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the learning curve, because even the classes you're going to take to become an operator, and those who are listening in California, you have an operator's license that you have to get before you can have your own business. And they make you take courses. And during these courses, they do go over a lot of laws and regulations and things like that. But also, you're hitting the very tip of the iceberg, right? I mean, they're not talking about usage reports that you have to send in monthly to each county, and you have to buy stamps and you got to put stamps on all of those. They're not talking about that stuff in those courses. They're telling you essentially, hey, this is the law to spray here, or to do this, or do that, or with an employee, you got to teach them this, or you got to teach them that. But it's very, very basic. They don't really go into everything you need to know. They don't talk to you about what happens when they come to your office and they want to do an inspection. You know anything about that? No, not till it happens.
Yeah.
I'd
They're
love
not
to.
going to teach you those things. They're not going to teach you, they'll teach you how long you have to keep certain records on file and stuff like that. But the grand scheme of things is you're getting very, very little information, and most people learn uh, by getting in trouble. And that's when they finally figure it out is, oh, hey, I have $1,000 fine I have to pay because I did this wrong. Well, now I know I got to do it different, right? And I mean, we acquired a company that's been around for 30 years, and they weren't doing a lot of stuff that they were supposed to, and they had no idea. So that owner for 30 years had no idea what the laws and the regulations were. Now, he got his operator's license 30 plus years ago. I don't think they had a course, that we have today. So the new operators are getting a little bit more information, but there's still so much behind it. And that's only the laws and regulations on what you need to do to the standard of the Structural Pest Control Board and the Ag Department. But now what you don't know is, what about business? What about HR? What about payroll? What about taxes? What about loans? Right? They're not teaching anybody that either. So you're jumping out into the world where it's like, hey, do you know how to spray a house? Of course, right? Anyone knows how to. After 3 months, you should probably know how to spray a home. Now, you haven't seen every scenario, but you get the idea, right? You got the right dilutions, you're taking care of a certain pest. It's pretty basic, but the side behind that, that's where it gets difficult, right? That's where me and Aaron, and I won't speak for him, but that's where it gets exciting for me, and the effort and everything is, you know, where we sit today is so much better even than when Aaron started, and we're still putting in, you know, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week to make this thing keep going, right? It's not like, oh, hey, we're here, we get to just go home and we don't care and it doesn't matter and you get to turn your mind off, right? We're still in it and we're still pushing just as hard as we were. Now, the cool thing is we're sharing that. So now, I don't have to run 24 hours straight, which is nice, but it's still there and the effort's still there, but you're not going to get that in a course. You're not going to get that in the operator's course, right? Of what you need to do to be successful in business or in pest control. You'll get the very little bit, of this is what you need to do to not get in trouble, but you're still probably going to get in trouble. So that's, yeah, it's an interesting, it's really interesting how they set it up and what they created here and how they did it. And I don't agree with it because I went through it. And I came in with a lot more business side than pest control. And so I had to learn the pest control side, but I knew a lot of the business side, and I had a lot of good contacts on the business side that I could ask. But on the pest control side, I didn't have much and I didn't have any points of contact. So it was literally figuring it out. Like, I had no idea. And the state wasn't willing to talk to you as much, and you didn't want to go to the ag department. You start to ask them questions, they're going to start doubting who you are. And they're going to say, hey, Raul Pest Control, he's asking me some weird questions. We better go inspect his truck. We better go and check out his office. You know, I don't think this guy knows what he's doing. But it's like, well, how would I know? No one's teaching me. They don't put on courses. They don't put on classes. They don't care. So it's kind of an interesting mix, you know, is when you're stepping into that, you know, for you at Clark, and I get it. Clark's a big company. They want a technician. They want you in your route. They want you to do what you're supposed to do. And they're giving you the information you need, not that you want. They don't care about that. I don't blame them. You know, I'm not going to badmouth them in any way because that's just business. You're not going to tell a route technician every detail of the business. They're going to get overwhelmed. Why do that? You know, so they're going to give you the information you need to know to be the best route technician in that area that you can be. Outside of that, do you need to know a specific law about reporting? That's not your problem. That's the office. That's somebody else's issue. They get to learn that. You don't need to learn that. And so it does get kind of difficult when, you know, and especially in your situation where it's like, hey, I want to start something, but where do I look?
You don't know what you don't know.
And you learn quick. That I can say, you will learn quick. So it's a whole interesting thing, but I don't know if you want to add to that, Aaron, on your perspective, being so fresh into it too. I mean, coming up on 2 years.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I mean, I'm sort of getting ready to take the operator's test at the end of this year because I'll be coming up on 2 years. And you're right, it's laws and regs, do's and don'ts, which includes so much but leaves out equally as much, you know. And I'm learning stuff on the fly like every single day. You know, like you'll pull me in, you'll show me something where in the past we got a fine for something, or did you know the guys can get fined for this? In my head, I'm like, I got to make sure I'm not doing that on my truck. You know what I mean? And it's you learn stuff as you go, and you're right. There's just like you said, Raul, you don't know what you don't know. You know, so you have to find out, and unfortunately, you have to find out the hard way. But you have to learn from that and be prepared as best as you can. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And Raul, is there anything else that you'd want to ask or you're interested in?
You know, I've seen a lot of other pest control companies in, you know, how they operate in all these other states, you know. And, you know, what you said, I think, on the last podcast was, you know, it's almost a good thing that we're in California because we're almost the trendsetters. You know, we're going to get hit with everything first. Mm-hmm. Eventually, you know, everybody's going to follow. You know, I've been familiar with a few, you know, lawn care pest control companies, you know, out in Florida and other places. Mm-hmm. Does that system even possible here in California? Because I've heard I've heard some people, you know, you can't mix both businesses, you know, legal reasons. Mm-hmm. Or how far does that go? Because, you know, if a lawn care can do, you know, some applications, you know, whether it's the shrubs, which regular pest control companies do as well, you know, the lawn treatments, weed control. How does those two worlds mix in?
You know, I think they mix in very well. I think a lot of older technicians made something up to prevent people from doing it because it just makes everything a little bit more difficult, you know, in the grand scheme of things, licensing, stuff like that. What I've learned is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And how would they, right? How would they and how could they control that? That's like saying Chick-fil-A can't sell a hamburger. Why? Doesn't matter, right? You know, it's as a pest control company, you can do whatever you want. You could add on, you know, lawn services. Why? Why would that restrict us? There's pest control companies doing insulation. They're not an AC company, you know, they're not HVAC. So why are they able to do that, but we couldn't do lawn care? I just think it's some lie that somebody created and it's kind of trickled through because I've heard it too. I've heard it from technicians, older technicians that were here, in the past when I started. And there's everything I've looked up doesn't exist. Doesn't exist at all. You can have your QAL license. You can have your operator's license. Nothing's wrong with it. You can have every category in the QAL license. No one cares. Ag department doesn't care. You paying their dues. You send them reports. Cool. We're happy. We're making our money. There may be some restrictions, or they may look at certain things because how you advertise and the verbiage you're going to use, they may not like. And that's something that you're going to have to do some research on if you're looking to mix those. But in the grand scheme of things, no, it does not matter. And if anyone says that, they're lying to you. They're just trying to scare you to do one or the other, not both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've heard. And it doesn't make sense why it would matter. Why would it matter if I owned an HVAC company and a pest control company? It doesn't matter. What are they going to do? As long as I have my licenses, we're fine.
It's true.
So, yeah.
And
is there anything else? Yeah.
Okay, you kind of beat me to it, Raul, because before we were going to close, you brought up the lawn care and wanting to do your own thing. And my first thought was, dude, that's a great opening. That's a great transition to either advertise or get word of mouth or just get traction on that. So, I'm glad that you're thinking the same way. But like Daniel said, some of that stuff you might have to maybe do a little bit of research on how to make sure you can do it with passing colors and, stay
Yeah,
under
I mean,
the light
that's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of, I think it's JRB? JRB?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. They're in Sacramento. They're a big lawn maintenance company. I mean, they do big commercial jobs. They started a pest control division too. Now, I think what you have to do, though, I think there is a fine line. I don't think you can have a trailer with all of your lawn maintenance equipment behind it and the pest control company too. I don't know if you can do that. I think what the Structural Pest Control Board has kind of made it very clear, and the ag department too, is you have to have a very fine line of this truck is pest control. This truck is lawn maintenance. And you can't have those intertwined. You have to have them very separate. And I think that's what it is you have to have it as a whole different business and company or something along. It can be the same name, you can own the same name, but it just has to be labeled very clearly on the vehicle. It is Raul Pest Control and Raul Lawn Maintenance or Lawn Care or whatever, right? I think that's where they would get kind of funky, because this JRB, they do, but they don't ever advertise pest control on their lawn maintenance, and they don't advertise lawn maintenance on their pest control.
Yeah.
So it's very separate, but it's the same, and they do have that division. But it would be a quick call to the ag department or the Structural Pest Control Board and just asking, hey, this is what I'm thinking. You have nothing to lose to call them. You haven't started anything yet, so it's just a good question, and they'll answer it for you.
Yeah, that was actually what I was thinking of doing. Coming to Clark, every time there were any little hiccups, I always have that entrepreneur mindset where I was like, well, why don't we do this? Or why are we still doing it this way instead of this way? And, you'll come across people, they're like, that's just how we've been doing it. And, I think if we're able to change things up, help each other the way you guys are helping, even me being so close, if we're all getting better, the industry standards are higher. Better work, people will learn to appreciate the value of the work a lot more, instead of them saying, well, why aren't you spraying my, why aren't you charging me $25? Why are you trying to charge me so much?
Mhm.
But then when, HVAC goes out and they're like, oh, it's, over $100, they don't, some people don't hesitate. They'll just pay it right away.
Mhm.
And, but then when you think of HVAC, what comes to mind is, you know, they've always been seen just as professional. Of course, sometimes you see the ones in the movies, looking a
Mhm.
little bit funny.
Mhm.
But the same thing with us, if we have those few bad apples that ruin it for all of us, I think we should have an agreement instead of driving past each other and looking away, or, you know,
Mhm.
I've started waving at everybody. I don't
Mhm.
care what company they work for. I'll wave at them. I'll smile, and
Mhm.
if we talk, we talk. Because if you're doing the best you can, I'm doing the best I can. Well, people are gonna see that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yep. Very true. Um, and I'll let you know, if you're gonna start your own company, Raul, don't undercut pricing. This is what kills the industry. That's what kills people. Um, and even at Pest World and all of these courses and classes and stuff that we take, that's been a pretty common theme across the board is you'll be doing a job and you're charging $89, right? And you're like, man, I could start my own company and I could do it for 60. Don't do that, right? It only hurts you and it hurts everybody on the outside of that as well. You can't grow charging bare minimum. Now, if you're going to do a bare
Mm.
minimum service, charge accordingly. But if you start undercutting pricing and prices and everything like that, it's never going to work out. It's not good. It's not good for growth. It's not good for the industry. And that's another thing that I took in. And when they mentioned that is, we're hurting ourselves. The Wildlife Academy I went to, or Wildlife Expo, that was the whole thing. It was like, why are you undercutting yourself? Why are you charging so little? Charge accordingly. Charge what you need to. Rodent Academy, they said the same thing to me when I was there. It was, you need to charge what you should. Don't go out there and do a job for nothing. Even though, yeah, you may still make a couple bucks on it. That's not the point. The point is you need to be able to grow. You need to be able to thrive. And if you undercut yourself, you undercut the entire industry. And it's not good. It's not good for your business. It's not good for my business. It's not good for anybody's business, right? So you do have to do that. Now, before we close, we have a question. We're trying to ask this every pest guest. Is Raul, what is the craziest thing that has happened to you out in the field?
So I have two really quick ones. Not too
Okay.
crazy, but just going over to a house. It was a Saturday, my Saturday service,
Okay.
and I get off. Ask her, I was like, "What's the problem?" Oh, she starts going off on me. I mean, almost cussing me out. And I'm standing there so confused. It's my first couple months of work. She's like, well, I'm just trying to get my money's worth. And I was like, yeah, it's always, we're always going to do it for you. Just tell me what's the issue and we'll
Yeah.
take care of it. And she has no issues. There's nothing going wrong, but she's yelling at me for about 5 minutes straight, telling me that I need to, do the webs, respray inside and outside. I was like, well, she's not seeing anything. We're not having any issues. Uh, Quick alpine treatment. I
Yeah.
was like, just in case.
Mhm.
Um, I think the worst one I've had, which is an issue I've still been having,
Mhm.
is the cockroaches. The people that really don't care, they just do it because their landlord tells them. It's
Mhm.
going into a house. You think everything's normal, but the second you walk around behind the picture frames, carpets, behind their food, I
Mhm.
was just there yesterday, and you
Okay.
still get those same cockroaches issues.
Mhm.
And at this point, it's burn the house because no sanitation will clean it.
It's like,
Oh
just
yeah.
get rid of the whole house. That's the only way we're gonna win.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's always fun, but education, talking to customers, handling them in the right way, it's part of the job, and it's always interesting part of the job because you'll get to, at least me and Aaron, we have it where they're cussing out the office, and then we show up and they actually are really nice to us, and we're like, we got pre-warned that you're going to be the worst person ever.
Mm-hmm.
And they're super nice. So you get that flip. You get it where they're super nice to the office, then we show up and it's like they want to rip our head off. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. As the field route tech, it took me the 2 years before I was comfortable in every situation where all the customers say, so much, you've been doing this forever. You're probably, a lot of people think I'm 40 years old. And I was just like, no, but when you like what you do and you get to learn from it, you want to share that knowledge and make sure the customers are happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Raul, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the feedback and the questions. We do appreciate you, and we appreciate what you're doing out there, and especially in our hometown, and hopefully we get to see you. If we see you out in the field, you know what we look like. We're going to say hi. And hopefully we can stop and, chat in person. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I always see, a few of your guys' trucks. I just got my lawn care truck, painted. It's Precision Lawn Care Services in Sacramento.
Oh, awesome.
We have a mascot of a Rottweiler wearing a, lawn care uniform. So be on the lookout for that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. No, well, I'll definitely look out for that. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Raul. Well, thank you so much, and you have an awesome weekend.
You guys too. Let's get back to work.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Yep.
Bye.
Okay, there we go. The next pest guest,
Raul Ortiz. That was fun.
Yeah. We didn't get to talk too much about the bugs.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that afterwards. I'm like, I wish we would have got in a little bit more about what the seasonal pests are. But it was good. It was good questions, mixing industries, doing lawn maintenance, pest control, and the support he's getting over there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and I was really surprised because you just kind of assume that such a large company would just look at that situation and just brush it off, or, it's like, shut up and do your job kind of a attitude. But, if he's actually is getting that support, it is refreshing,
Yeah. And one thing I did forget to tell him, and it's just a stigma in the industry, and I don't know why. So when he goes back and watches this will be good for him. But when you do get your operator's license and you leave a place, you start your own, whatever it is, and you're jumping back in, it gets pretty difficult because people feel very threatened by an operator's license. So it gets more and more difficult that you have an operator's license, and it gets more and more difficult to even find another place to work. At least here in California, I've seen it with so many people. And I've seen so many guys who have it, and they're like, I want to get rid of it. Like, I don't even want it because it in that interview, it's like, well, I'm bringing you on to talk to my customers. Are you going to steal them?
Seriously.
Yeah. So it's kind of the conflict of interest. So if you're going to do it, you better do it. You better make it work, or forfeit the license afterwards and just get your branch 2 again. But Raul, that's the last little bit I would say to that. Is it true? I don't know. Just everyone I've talked to has had a pretty rough time.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. And that's something that, even I didn't even think about for me, because we're hiring all the time, and we're hiring just for a branch 2 tech, and he comes in with an operator's license. I'm asking some questions, you know what I mean? It's like, well, why, how, what are your plans and what are you doing? But no, I think that's good. So thank you, Raul. Looks like you were working, so I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Just another great pest guest. I mean, we have another, week and a half, 2 weeks of NPMM. So please, guys, you yourself, anybody that wants to be on the podcast or the show, please send them our way. We have 2 weeks left. We're still sending out some of the merchandise we have here. So don't forget some of the best stories that we get, and probably everybody else is going to get a little bit of something. A lot of the information too, we post on our social media. So we have an Instagram that's up. We have a Facebook group up. Obviously, if you're watching us, it's on YouTube. We drop episodes every Monday and Thursday. So please, whatever platform you're listening to us on, like and share it. It helps us grow organically. But thank you again for listening to the DNA Pest Control Podcast.